Welcome, Resonators, to your ultimate guide to Roccia, the latest Havoc sub-DPS in Wuthering Waves. Roccia is a 5-star female character specializing in Havoc damage and buffs. Designed with Camellya in mind, Roccia excels in crowd control and heavy attack scaling, making her a strong contender for teams built around Havoc-centric gameplay. Could she also be a future sub-DPS for Furlova? Only time will tell. But for now, let's dive into her kit, rotations, echo builds, weapons, and materials, and whether she's worth your pulls. Let's get started. First off, Roccia's aesthetic oozes creativity and flair. Her combat style reflects her playful yet artistic personality, complete with over-the-top crowd control mechanics. Roccia's uniqueness comes from her seamless synergy with Camellya, a main DPS, but she's also versatile enough to fit into other team compositions. With her ability to manipulate the battlefield through crowd control and her scaling with heavy attack damage, Roccia is a stylish addition to any Havoc-oriented team. Even her animations scream artistry, making her one of the most visually engaging characters to date. Let's start by breaking down her kit. Normal attack. Roccia's normal attack performs up to 4 consecutive strikes, dealing Havoc damage. Simple but effective for restoring imagination and maintaining her damage output. Heavy attack. Roccia consumes stamina to deal Havoc damage, triggering the Beyond Imagination state when hitting targets with 100+ imagination. In this state, she charges her attack even with depleted stamina, releasing a powerful blow when fully charged. Mid-air attack. Roccia's plunging attack deals Havoc damage. Perfect for chaining into combos from Beyond Imagination, this attack keeps her momentum going while delivering devastating area damage. Dodges followed by a basic attack unleash a Havoc strike. Nothing much to say about her basic attacks. Her basic attacks will mostly be used to charge her forte gauge. Just like most characters, if I can say. Resonance skill. Acrobatic trick. Roccia pulls in nearby enemies and deals Havoc damage, launching herself into Beyond Imagination. This skill is a cornerstone of her kit, offering unparalleled crowd control, while setting up her powerful mid-air combos. Roccia's ultimate ability deals Havoc damage and increases the attack of all Resonators by up to 200 points for 30 seconds based on her crit rate. This is a strong team-wide buff. Its long duration ensures her impact is felt, even after she leaves the field. Considering most main DPS have about 2,500 attack, assuming you got enough crit rate on her, she buffed them to 2,700, which is roughly an 8% damage buff. Forte Circuit. When Roccia is at 300 imagination, which is her full forte, she can perform up to 3 consecutive attacks and then enters Beyond Imagination state. In this state, her basic will become Real Fantasy, dealing massive Havoc damage. Outro skill. When Roccia exits, the incoming Resonator gains 20% Havoc and 25% basic attack damage for 14 seconds, or until switched out. This makes her a flexible sub-DPS and support character who enhances her team's overall output. Intro skill. Roccia strikes with Havoc damage, transitioning smoothly into a stage 4 basic attack if timed correctly. Inherent skills. Immersive performance boosts Roccia attack by 20% after casting Resonance skill or heavy attack. Nothing crazy about it, it just tells us a bit more about her rotation. Super attractive magic box. Replaces the next Resonator's utility with a magic box that pulls enemies and deals Havoc damage after casting her outro skill. This is never seen before. It shows us how creative the devs are with new characters. I'm not particularly a fan of this mechanic, but it's a nice addition. Knowing all of that, we can now try to find out a basic rotation, or at least I'll try to give you a rough idea on how to play her to deal damage and buff your so-loved Camellya effectively. Assuming you start with her intro, you should get her basic attack stage 4 right away. You will now want to cast her skill for the 20% buff that it provides, and then fill her forte with normal attacks, I believe. Once that is done, you will most likely want to cast her forte skill, which is the 4 consecutive attacks. At this point, you should nearly have your concerto filled for Camellya, so I'm assuming you can cast her Liberation, which gives a 200 attack points buffs, followed by an echo skill swap cancel, into Camellya. This simple, yet effective rotation should give you all the buffs that she has to offer to your crazy girl. And for the rest, you know what you have to do. Roccia's best weapon is her signature gauntlet, which comes with a 24% crit rate main stat, 12% attack buff, and a massive 48% heavy attack damage boost. However, it's a niche option tailored to her own damage, making it skippable if you're focusing on Camellya's performance. Other solid options include Zhongliao Gauntlet for crit rate main stat, but nothing useful about the effects. The standard 5-star is also usable, but much worse because of attack main stat and useless effects. Her best 4-star option is by far Stannard. For the crit rate buff, if you remember, she buffs the whole party when she's above 70% crit rate, so that's mandatory. Moving on to her Echo build, you essentially have two good options. Midnight Veil, set with Nightmare Heron, will provide 22% Havoc buff, 12% heavy attack buff, and an additional 15% Havoc buff for the next character. This set maximizes Roccia's damage output and ensures she remains effective throughout the fight, while also giving a slight buff to Camellya. Moonlit Clouds, set with Heron 4 cost, boosts attack by 22.5% and damage by 12% for the next character. This option is ideal for players looking to prioritize team synergy over individual performance. On paper, I believe the new Havoc set will be better, or they wouldn't have made it in the first place, but the Moonlit Clouds set will still provide the biggest buffs to Camellya. So it's really up to you. I don't think there is a good or bad choice here. About the stat priorities, I'm tempted to say crit damage 4 cost if using a crit rate weapon, but considering her Liberation provides an attack buff depending on her crit rate, you might want to build her with crit rate on both Echo and weapon. For your information, you will need a maximum of 70% crit rate, which I think is doable even without a crit rate 4 cost Echo. Then double Havoc 3 cost, or 1 Havoc 1 attack. Just like most DPS, double element or one of each is usually very similar, damage-wise. I recommend farming both stats since the 3 cost are always a pain, which will essentially double your upgradable 3 cost Echoes. And as always, double attack for the 1 cost. Now for the substats in order, prioritize crit and crit damage, attack percent, heavy attack damage, and energy regeneration, or flat attack. As always, having double crit on each Echo, or least crit rate, will be mandatory. Let's now talk a bit about her possible teammates. Without any surprise, Roccia shines as a sub-DPS in Camellya-centric teams. Her outro buff amplifies Camellya's Havoc and basic attack damage, creating a devastating synergy. She can also support Havoc Rover, or even Danjin if you're daring enough to run a low-health strategy. Additionally, Roccia's crowd control abilities make her a valuable asset in teams that struggle with managing enemy formations. And finally, the part you've been waiting for, the materials. Unlike Carlotta, we can already farm all of her materials, so after watching this video, you have no reason not to farm them already. So, you will need 46 Lorelei boss materials, 60 flowers scattered across the map of Renacida. Use the built-in tracker, you will be done in a matter of minutes. Cadence Blossom as the forgery materials. And finally, 26 Hecate weekly boss drops. All of these materials are currently available in the game, so be sure to start pre-farming to prepare for Roccia's arrival. Don't forget to prioritize weekly bosses and exploration to stay ahead. Sadly, I'm still gathering items for Carlotta, so I'll miss some of these. In conclusion, is Roccia worth your precious astrites? Well, Roccia isn't a must-pull unless you're a dedicated Camellya main. Even then, alternatives like Sanhua can still support Camellya effectively. However, if you value her crowd control, unique mechanics, and stylish flair, Roccia is a fun and rewarding addition to your roster. Her niche role as a Havoc sub-DPS makes her a valuable asset for players focused on maximizing Havoc damage. But since we don't have any info on Frolova yet, or even Cantarella, it's hard to say how future-proof she will be. You could always wait a bit more until her rerun. I'm sure Kuro will rerun her if they drop a Havoc DPS who synergize with her, just like Camellya. And that wraps up your guide on Roccia. Let me know in the comments if you're planning to pull for her, or how you'd build her. Also let me know if I made any mistake. These early builds are quite difficult to make without playing the actual character. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more Wuthering Waves content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.